bunkers or shelters, has risen dramatically in 2016. As a matter of fact, one of the entrepreneurs of survival construction is a fellow by the name of Robert Vicino, head of the survival firm Vivos. He recently told the Daily Star magazine that the elites are already preparing for the end of civilization as we know it. He posed this question to the reader: why did Russia just have a drill for 40 million people? He went on to say, they do not have a plan for you and me, but they have a plan for themselves. Here is Robert Vicino describing a Vivos facility.
That whole upper structure can be blown away. Debris could fall in here. Doesn't matter. It won't get inside.
The master plan is for a self-contained shelter, a safe haven in the case of a catastrophe.
Would you want to survive, or would you want to sit on the porch with a bottle of Chardonnay or Jack Daniels and watch the show?
And Robert Vicino, a San Diego inventor and real estate entrepreneur, is the man behind Vivos. His vision, a nationwide network of underground shelters for survival.
There'll be double layers and razor wire. This will be an impenetrable compound when we're done.
We met Vicino at an undisclosed location in the middle of the desert, halfway between Los Angeles and Las Vegas.
We're actually walking on top of the shelter right now. It's kind of like this. You buy a fire extinguisher for your office or your home, hoping you never have to use it. But you get it well in advance of when there's a fire.
And yes, he did say buy. Think of it like fractional ownership for the end of the world.
The only safe place to be will be underground.
So you can be one of the chosen one, though, if you can afford it.
If you can afford it. And you know what? The price we're charging at $50,000, I mean, it's just a matter of choice.
And what do you tell people when they say you're crazy now? Because I'm sure you still get that.
Like a fox. All right? We're not crazy. We're just preparing. We're open-minded enough to prepare. This is the main entry. We're going down a shaft, I don't know, 30 feet down.
Vicino took us inside, where he's planning to spend $10 million to turn this into this.
The whole theme here is comfort.
So this isn't Spartan survival.
No, it was.
There's a 3,000-pound blast-proof door.
You derobe here.
Decontamination room.
In the case of an earthquake, nothing breaks.
And spring-mounted equipment.
The entire 14,000 square foot facility is lined with vents like these. A gamma ray detector outside can cause these to close up in a nanosecond to keep all radiation out.
Vicino says each facility will have food, clothing, and supplies for a year for nearly 200 people. He claims hundreds have already applied, young and old, doctors and plumbers.
There is no prejudice, there is no affinity with any religion, there's no dogma, and there's no ego. You check your ego at the door.
Plans even show a detention facility and exercise equipment. Vicino says owners would meet at rendezvous points and could be helicoptered or escorted in before facilities are secured.
Aren't you trying to instill fear in people and drive them into your business by perpetuating fear?
Not at all. In fact, our website's very careful not to promote fear, just to provide an education about all the things that are already out there.
Vicino stresses the idea of a shelter is nothing new. In fact, he claims the government has top secret shelters for the elite. And it's not the problem he's creating, but he says the solution.
You know, I've had a lot of people say, well, I don't think I want to be around after something like that happens. Why? It could be a nuclear blast. It's just, you know, you need shelter, but the rest of the world might be fine. Who's to say that the world won't be fine afterwards? Might have a lot less population, but it could be a very nice world.
Here is a visionary who is forewarning us that something epic is going to happen sooner or later. Therefore, what are your choices at this time? You can dismiss this as nonsense and go about your daily routine as if nothing will ever happen, or hope that it never will. Or make every effort to seek shelter. Take advantage of your survival techniques and knowledge, if you have that skill, and continue to live. That is the claim according to survival experts who believe that the United States, Britain, Russia, and other governments are preparing complexes to ensure the survival of the elite. Robert Vicino claims that our government has been constructing fully equipped survival shelters since 1983. Now think about what I just said for one moment. They have been preparing shelters since 1983. Does that year sound familiar to you? It should, if you have been following this saga over the years. I mentioned in previous videos that in January of 1983, the Washington Post headlined that NASA had discovered a heavenly body as large as Jupiter in the direction of the constellation Orion by an infrared orbiting telescope. So they have known about this giant planet at the edge of our solar system for 33 years now, and they are prepared to move into their shelters in the blink of an eye. Does this make any sense? You bet it does. And anyone who tells you otherwise are fooling themselves. The biggest of these shelters is located in Colorado beneath the city of Denver. It has a capacity to hold just 10,000 people, mostly comprised of government officials and those who are in a position of power. In case you are not aware, this giant complex is linked to what some refer to as rumors of the Illuminati and apocalyptic predictions. The Denver airport apparently is linked to the U.S. Capitol by high-speed underground rail, where high-ranking officials can make a safe exit to their survival destination. So how was this underground rail system built? According to Robert Vicino, they used drills which the British and French had used to dig the Channel Tunnel. Except in this particular case, they were nuclear powered and capable of glazing the walls of the site where they would harden. In the late 1990s and the early part of this century, there were numerous reports day after day from residents across small towns in the Mideast that they could hear the sounds of a train coming from beneath their feet, somewhere underground. Could this be what they were hearing? So do strange underground sounds make sense? Sure does, because it brings us right back to that story from the Washington Post in 1983. They have known that something is coming for decades when it was first discovered by the IRIS telescope. It is a fact that this planet was first announced, then retracted by NASA, and suppressed by our government so that no agency would ever be able to discuss it again. Those are just the facts. They cannot be disputed. They are there in black and white for everyone to see and take notice of it. Here is something that each of you who follow this channel need to be aware of. I've discussed it before, but it needs to be reiterated. First of all, do you actually believe that your government would tell you if something life-threatening was about to happen, if there was no sensible solution to quell the dilemma? To do so would cause both social and economic meltdown. Does that make sense? You bet it does. Now, here is something that doesn't make sense when it comes to the construction of these shelters. A few of you who frequent the channel have said that these bunkers were built to prepare for another world war. I suppose that might be the case, except for the fact that these shelters are being built at great depths below the surface of the earth. Which poses the question, why build at such considerable depth in the event of a nuclear fallout? Does that make sense? Probably not. So where does that leave us as we try to decipher the misinformation and sort out all of the confusion surrounding a mysterious planet in our solar system. Those of you who think that this is all crazy are the ones who have spent little or no time researching this. In other words, you want proof to substantiate the claim of a binary star system, but you're not willing to do any research on your own because maybe it is too time-consuming, or maybe it conflicts with your interpretation of the laws of the universe, or maybe I just don't want to believe that it could be true. Therefore, you will debunk it and erase it from your memory. Whatever your motive may be, it becomes your obligation to do the research that categorically proves otherwise. To just say, I don't see it in the sky, proves nothing other than denial that something may exist. So try spending less time on your smartphone demeaning those who have devoted time to research, and then spend more time observing your natural surroundings and searching for information that can help you in your quest for the truth. So what exactly is Nibiru, and should we be concerned? Conspiracy theorists have for decades predicted its passage. Some have gone as far as to predict that Planet X will destroy the Earth. However, you can take some comfort in knowing that this planet was predicted to hit Earth or to make a close passage in December of 2015. In 2012, as part of the Mayan apocalypse, and as far back as 2003 by Nancy Later, founder of the popular website ZetaTalk. But NASA, in their quest to quell any doubts about the existence of this legendary planet, proclaimed in its Beyond 2012 page that Nibiru is an internet hoax with no factual basis for claims of its existence. If so, astronomers would be tracking it, and it would now be visible to the naked eye. But if you examine that statement more closely, it should begin to raise a red flag. Was it not NASA who claimed that an orbiting telescope had discovered the planet, as published in a 1983 article in the Washington Post? Is it not NASA who even today are sending infrared satellites into deep space to search for the elusive planet? And if this planet should by now be visible to the naked eye, as NASA had stated, then why have they stationed a giant infrared telescope in the middle of Antarctica, where the incoming Planet X can best be viewed just below the ecliptic plane? They also want you to believe that astronomers would be tracking its movement if indeed there was such a planet, wanting you to forget that it was one of their own associate researchers, Dr. Robert Harrington of the U.S. Naval Observatory, who was tracking its movement and was about to go public with his findings on its existence. Those are the facts, folks. It seems as though NASA is not very good at concealing the truth about this planet. Their innuendo that there is no Planet X is blatantly deceptive, and their deception does not go unnoticed. I realize that some of our subscribers or first-time followers are struggling with the confusion surrounding Planet X and whether a binary star system exists that has the potential to create havoc throughout our solar system. What I and other contributors have attempted to do with our video content is to present astronomical observations, scientific data, and analysis to a public that is interested in knowing and understanding the reasoning behind the sudden and extreme climate and Earth-related events that are developing across our planet. We know that these events are not just random or cyclical. They are unprecedented and getting progressively worse as time passes. Preparing expeditiously will be important to you and your loved ones' welfare and well-being, and that should be your ultimate goal in these troubled times. If you continue keeping your eye to the sky, observing the movement of the planets and constellations, as well as the positioning of our sun as it moves across the horizon, you will begin to understand that something is tugging at the Earth, creating the effect that the planets and stars are out of alignment, a phenomena that both the Inuit and Hopi tribes had predicted many years ago. Do not waver in your search for the truth. It is there. You just have to know where to look for it.
If you were to travel all the way around the Earth in a straight line and return back to the very same spot that you started in, you would go on a journey of almost 25,000 miles. This means that the circumference all the way around the Earth is 25,000 miles. Pluto, on the other hand, has a circumference of only 4,500 miles. Now, 4,500 miles is still absurdly huge. Pluto is a massive rock floating through space. So I wondered, what would happen if a massive celestial object like Pluto were to crash directly into our Earth? The reality of such an impact is terrifying, but at the same time, it's an amazing sight to watch. Every glowing dot ejecting out of the impact site is a massive chunk of Pluto or even the Earth's crust. Over the next hours and days, they will be pulled back down by Earth's gravity and rain onto our planet like hellfire, obliterating everything. At this point, it should be clear that all life on Earth will inevitably die. The gray area forming around the edges of the fiery impact site is actually the ocean floor. The intense heat produced by the impact is causing the billions and billions of gallons of water in the ocean to evaporate on contact. When the simulation is sped up to many times normal speed, we can see that all of Earth's oceans evaporate. The heat from the original impact spreads throughout the entire planet, heating it from the inside out. All of Earth's crust becomes molten. The continents that were once so familiar become completely unrecognizable. Eventually, our Earth would cool down, and it would return to its former state. It would have an atmosphere, and water would come back to the oceans. However, the continents would most likely be reshaped from the entire crust being molten. The point that Pluto actually impacted the Earth would likely be a permanent large crater. It would take many millions or even billions of years for something that large to be removed from the Earth's surface. In the end, even after Pluto smashed into Earth, it seems that after a very long time, liquid oceans would return, and the atmosphere would return to its normal composition. Life will always find a way.
Are you serious? Are you serious? The collision of the cosmos. Planet X may be bringing a collision of the cosmos. The heavens are shaking, and there's no question that we've got a prophetic evening last night. 61 meteors. Are you serious? 61 fireballs is what they like to report it as, seen in the sky last night. Every night, folks, there are now fireballs being reported around the earth, but not at this number. 61. Matter of fact, the NASA all-sky cameras scan the skies above the United States for meteor fireballs, and automated software is now being used to help track the actual path in which each meteor is taking. And it's an incredible, they're coming from every different direction, but to have one night where 61 of them pierce through in the atmosphere, they're being seen all over the world. They're being reported. It's intensifying. It's exactly what Mike from around the world said was going to happen. And folks, the second wave of the 5 waves of energy is due December 26th. And here's the key. It's not like the world's going to come to an end on December 26th. But what it does say is this. Boom. We're going to feel this, this wave of energy, but it's followed by intense pressure, fireballs, earthquakes, volcanoes, potential apocalyptic or cataclysmic or catastrophic events, tsunamis. Not sure. We know the earth's going to shake, okay? We know it's going to shake, and there's a lot of debris. And we're not even to the second wave yet. You know, we've had the first wave last year, and some of you may not know, it was a small ripple wave. It hit on August the 17th, okay, 2015. Now, then in April of this year, we had a wave, a very small wave, but it was recorded and documented. BP Earthwatch was able to go back and retract and find that. Now, and then during the late September, I think it was, no, or in October, around October 14th, 15th, we had 3 waves, 3 days in a row. They were little ripples, but they definitely affected the Earth's magnetosphere, okay? It definitely affected it. And there's charts and graphs that show it. You can see it in real time, and BP Earthwatch spotted it. And I actually had BP Earthwatch and Mike Around the World come on my live show and discuss this. Now, the second wave is due, but already we've seen unbelievable auroras, and now 61 fireballs last night, according to reports. They were all over the world. They were flying everywhere. And here's another report. NASA is admitting that they know where 1,743 potentially hazardous asteroids that are considered near-Earth objects of the Earth. They have them located. They have named them. They know their size and approximate time they will go by the Earth. None of them are projected to hit us. But oh, by the way, neither was the one that hit in Russia. They didn't have that one listed. Remember that one, February of 2013? And 2 months ago, the one that hit in Australia, that one wasn't listed. And 4 years ago, the one that hit and killed a person in Argentina, that one wasn't listed. Matter of fact, NASA has listed right now 1,743 potential hazardous asteroids. They have listed, all of which are near-Earth objects, none of which are projected to hit us. Matter of fact, NASA has never predicted an asteroid to hit us, yet we have been hit several times. What I'm telling you is, if you're waiting on NASA to put it up on the chart, the size, the name, and the day it's going to deep impact, you're never going to see it. They're only going to tell us about the ones they know, they see, they're going by. And the 61 fireballs that was in the sky last night, none of those are even on the charts, because they're considered meteors or fireballs. They're not incoming asteroids. What I'm trying to say to you is, we are on the brink of the collision of the cosmos. The colliding, the collision of the cosmos is taking place like a pinball, and at some point, as Planet X or Nibiru or Planet 7X, as Gil Brazard says it, or Planet number 9, like NASA's renamed it, or you know, whatever you want to call it, call it what you want, binary system, a part of the Jupiter system, call it whatever you want to call it, whatever is it that God is using. And remember, God is doing it. Whatever this object, this huge, massive pull that's on the entire solar system and is shaking the heavens and is breaking loose the cosmos, there's a collision of the cosmos. Something's breaking loose the asteroids, the meteorites, the fireballs. And Jesus said this was going to happen. And Paul warned of the great shaking both in the heavens and on the earth. And Isaiah prophesied it in Isaiah 24. He even talks of a pole shift in Isaiah 24 verse 1, when he says the earth is going to flip upside down. He even tells us that we'd hear songs in the heavens and noises, boom, from the earth, from the pit. And we're hearing these. These are the sounds of the apocalypse. And as that's all happening, folks, you can know the earth is going to reel and rock like a drunken man. Isaiah said it in the same chapter, Isaiah 24, verse 20. So what I'm telling you is this. We're on a collision course with destiny. We're on a collision course with Christ. You're either going to meet Christ in the air, in his glorified body, you change in the moment of a twinkling of an eye, or you're going to meet the wrath of God on a collision course with humanity's judgment, when the wrath of God and the seals are broken, poured out upon this planet, and the men are going to run for the rocks and the mountains, and they're going to cry to them to fall on them and to hide them from the face of him that sits on the throne. I'm promising you something. Every knee is going to bow. Every tongue is going to confess. Every eye is going to behold him. They're going to confess that he's the King of kings, the Lord of lords. Whether you believe it or not, the hour is coming. Are you serious? It is the coming apocalypse. Give your life to Jesus Christ and get the joy of the Lord. Because are you afraid, Pastor Beckley? No. I'm not afraid at all, because the Bible says when I see these signs that I'm to look up. When I see these things coming to pass, here it is. There shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and distress of nations with perplexity, and the sea and the waves roaring. Men's hearts will fail them for fear, for looking after those things that are coming upon the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken, and there's going to be a collision in the cosmos. Then shall you see the Son of Man. It says, look up. Right then, when you see all these things happening, look up. Lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh, because you will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with power and great glory. All right, and when these things begin to come to pass, he said, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Are you saved? Jesus is the way.
When we looked at the outer solar system, we realized that while most of the very distant objects, these objects beyond Neptune, beyond Pluto, most of these objects, they all go around the sun and they're all sort of pointing off in all different directions. But the most distant objects all swing out in one direction in a very strange way that shouldn't happen. And we realized that the only way we could get them to all swing in one direction is if there is a massive planet, also very distant in the solar system, keeping them in place while they all go around the sun. And we started looking at this and thinking, this must be either a coincidence or it's caused by something else. It can't be caused by a planet because that's crazy. There are no planets out there. I went from trying very hard to be skeptical that what we were talking about was true to suddenly thinking, oh, this actually might even be true.
So the object itself likely is more massive than the Earth, probably a little bit less massive than Neptune. It sits right in between that terrestrial to giant icy planet range. Its orbit, unlike the orbits of the known planets, is not nearly circular and planar. Instead, it is exceptionally wide, 20 times bigger than the orbit of Neptune. The orbital period of the Earth is, of course, 1 year. Right? The orbital period of Jupiter, the big player in our solar system, is about 10 years. The orbital period of this putative ninth planet is 20,000 years.
We have nothing like it in the solar system, so it's new for us. It is, however, the most common mass of planets that have been found around all of the other stars. People have always looked at all these other planets in this strange mass range and said, wow, I wonder what these are. I don't know what these are because we don't have anything like it in the solar system. Looks like maybe we do. I'm really hoping that as we announce this, people start a worldwide search to go find this ninth planet.
Again, solar stream is coming from the right. That's where the sun is. All the plasma in the blue is being blown backwards. That's a part of our protective shield here. 2 hours missing, 5:37, exactly the same time. Everything goes haywire. Come up to that point again. Everything's coming from the right. Bam. Now the black lines are our field lines. That's our magnetic field lines. Very important. They have now bent backwards at this point. People have talked about Planet X, Nibiru, Planet 7. If there's an object coming in, would it have orbiting planets? Would it have debris with it?
So this is some stuff that piqued my curiosity that I'm sharing with you here. All of this stuff will be linked. I suggest you go to the Caltech thing and watch the whole video. But anyways, I'm going to try and get through this quickly for you. Planet X to really cause mass extinction this month. This is April 9th, 2016. We're going to come down here. Thanks to science, we know that the larger the celestial body, the bigger its gravity, and consequently its ability to affect other, smaller bodies around it. We've known of Jupiter's crucial role in protecting us from asteroids for quite some time now, but the mysterious Nibiru could very well do the opposite, and some say there's good reason to believe it. We're going to come down here. A retired astrophysics professor from the University of Louisiana, Daniel Whitmire, is saying Nibiru has all but arrived to our neck of the woods, and that the destruction brought about by its gravitational trickery will take place this very April, as it's done numerous times before. Then we're going to come down here. Earlier this year, we started seeing space anomalies manifesting in a small group of objects, which have been taking on a peculiar orbit. Only something 10 times the size of the Earth, as theorized with Nibiru, could influence celestial objects in such a way, according to a study from Caltech. The anomaly was picked up on in the Kuiper Belt, which stretches all the way past Neptune, and it resurrected a 100-year debate. And then we're going to come over here, because again, this stuff just piqued my curiosity, and I wanted to share it with you. This is fire officials' reclaim report of possible meteor strike in Bowie. This is Bowie, Maryland. This was on April 25th, 2016. And we're going to come down here where this was put out by the Bowie Volunteer Fire Department. Possible meteorite strike behind Scarlet Oak Terrace causing a massive brush fire. And then we're going to come up here and see that when firefighters made it to the site, there was a large pit, which was 12 to 15 feet wide by 5 to 6 feet deep. And the fire spread to adjacent trees and brush and took approximately 15 firefighters 4 hours to extinguish. But again, they came out and said, nope, that should have never been put out. The Post should have never listed a meteorite as the cause. Okay. Okay, so now we're coming over here. Was it a meteor? Solving the mystery of New Jersey's tsunami buoy. April 25th, 2016, a tsunami warning device about 200 miles off the coast of New Jersey went into event mode over the weekend, but there were no giant waves threatening the shore. There was speculation that the drop could have been triggered by a meteor because the Lyrid meteor showers were active during the weekend. There also was speculation a submarine could have struck the buoy. So again, this stuff just piqued my curiosity, want to share. We're going to move here. Okay, so now here we are, coast to coast. This was from March 30th, 2016. In the first half of the show, retired investigative researcher Bob Fletcher talked about his contention that a rogue Planet X or Nibiru is coming our way and the disastrous effects it could have for Earth. He first became suspicious that something was afoot when he discovered that massive amounts of money were being funneled out of the government and the Federal Reserve. He concluded that these funds were surreptitiously used for the construction and stocking of underground facilities that will house the elite and members of the New World Order, while the arrival of Planet X wreaks cataclysms upon the planet's surface. According to his sources, the knowledge of Planet X dates as far back as 1983. So again, I was just like, well, that's interesting. And so we're coming over here because I remember hearing about Rumsfeld talking about the missing $2.3 trillion that they couldn't track on September 10th. And we all know what happened on September 11th, 2001. Nobody was talking about the missing money. So I Googled just to see, and there was this one, which brought me over here. So here we are, debunked. Rumsfeld says 2.3 trillion missing from the Pentagon. In 2001, Donald Rumsfeld said, according to some estimates, we cannot track 2.3 trillion in transactions. This has been misinterpreted by many people as 2.3 trillion actually going missing. However, it's really just about the way the money was accounted for. So here's the original source. Go look at it for yourself, right? Okay. Oh, well, golly gee. Page not found. Okay, well, there was another link, right? Here, we can also see this. Huh. No input file specified, but yes, there was. So again, this was something, this has gone long, but it really, really piqued my curiosity. And I wanted to share it because, again, trying to put the pieces together. Here we are. He first became suspicious that something was afoot when he discovered that massive amounts of money were being funneled out of the government. And then, I don't know. This just made me go, that's interesting.
To provide an education about all the things that are already out there.
Vecino stresses the idea of a shelter is nothing new. In fact, he claims the government has top secret shelters for the elite. And it's not the problem he's creating, but he says the solution.
I've had a lot of people say, well, I don't think I want to be around after something like that happens. Why? It could be a nuclear blast. It's just, you need shelter, but the rest of the world might be fine. Who's to say that the world won't be fine afterwards? Might have a lot less population, but it could be a very nice world.
Here is a visionary who is forewarning us that something epic is going to happen sooner or later. Therefore, what are your choices at this time? You can dismiss this as nonsense and go about your daily routine as if nothing will ever happen, or hope that it never will.
Ship for the end of the world.
The only safe place to be will be underground.
So you can be one of the chosen one, though, if you can afford it.
If you can afford it. And you know what? The price we're charging at $50,000, it's just a matter of choice.
And what do you tell people when they say you're crazy now? Because I'm sure you still get that.
Like a fox. All right? We're not crazy. We're just preparing. We're open-minded enough to prepare. This is the main entry. We're going down a shaft, 30 feet down.
Vecino took us inside, where he's planning to spend $10 million to turn this into this.
The whole theme here is comfort.
So this isn't Spartan survival?
No, it was.
There's a 3,000-pound blast-proof door.
You derobe here.
Decontamination room.
In the case of an earthquake, nothing breaks.
And spring-mounted
The whole upper structure can be blown away. Debris could fall in here. Doesn't matter. It won't get inside.
The master plan is for a self-contained shelter, a safe haven in the case of a catastrophe.
Would you want to survive, or would you want to sit on the porch with a bottle of Chardonnay or Jack Daniels and watch the show.
And Robert Vecino, a San Diego inventor and real estate entrepreneur, is the man behind Vivos, his vision, a nationwide network of underground shelters for survival.
There'll be double layers and razor wire. This will be an impenetrable compound when we're done.
We met Vecino at an undisclosed location in the middle of the desert, halfway between Los Angeles and Las Vegas.
We're actually walking on top of the shelter right now. It's kind of like this. You buy a fire extinguisher for your office or your home, hoping you never have to use it. But you get it well in advance of when there's a fire.
And yes, he did say buy. Think of it like fractional ownership equipment.
The entire 14,000 square foot facility is lined with vents like these. A gamma ray detector outside can cause these to close up in a nanosecond to keep all radiation out.
Vecino says each facility will have food, clothing, and supplies for a year for nearly 200 people. He claims hundreds have already applied, young and old, doctors and plumbers.
There is no prejudice, there is no affinity with any religion, there's no dogma, and there's no ego. You check your ego at the door.
Plans even show a detention facility and exercise equipment. Vecino says owners would meet at rendezvous points and could be helicoptered or escorted in before facilities are secured.
Aren't you trying to instill fear in people and drive them into your business by perpetuating fear?
Not at all. In fact, our website's very careful not to promote fear. Just
or shelters has risen dramatically in 2016. As a matter of fact, one of the entrepreneurs of survival construction is a fellow by the name of Robert Vecino, head of the survival firm Vivos. He recently told the Daily Star magazine that the elites are already preparing for the end of civilization as we know it. He posed this question to the reader: why did Russia just have a drill for 40 million people? He went on to say, they do not have a plan for you and me, but they have a plan for themselves. Here is Robert Vecino describing a Vivos facility.
that whole